So wrapping up your fourth year, what have you learned about this period a couple weeks after the last game of the season? How important is this period to get your information and decide what the next
Oh, it's extremely important. It kind of sets the path for us over the course of the off season. Get a chance to have a lot of great conversations with players, coaches, really everybody involved in our whole football operation, and look at everything that we do and how can we do it better. And certainly, obviously, coming off a very disappointing season where I don't think anybody expected this, but it's here, and that's you always got to get to the truth of the matter. And the bottom line is what we did this season was not good enough, and so there's obviously a lot of room for improvement, and kind of challenge our team and our coaches and everybody involved to make sure that we are very mindful of how we use our time, and challenge everybody to look at themselves critically in certain areas that we can get better. And I know like I said, there's a lot of room for improvement.
Matt, you said last night that winning camouflages things, and right now you feel like everything's being exposed. I'm not sure you'd say that if you didn't have an idea of what might have been camouflaged, what is getting exposed. What do you think of the issues have been that need to be corrected?
Well, I don't necessarily want to get into all the specifics, because certainly there's areas that I know that come right to mind, and I'd like to address that in-house before I ever do it through the media. But I think that just there's a lot of things that we didn't do consistently enough throughout the course of the season that's kind of led us to this point. And obviously, there's been a lack of discipline as well in terms of just some of the stuff that we've done out on the field that we can't have.
I know you had the talk with Quay. Did you see what Devontae did after that as well on that same play?
I did.
Right away, or did you see it back on that?
I saw it after the fact. Yeah.
Was there a similar discussion with him as well?
Absolutely. And I do think I'll never defend the action, but I'll defend the person. And I think Quay has got he feels terrible about it, rightfully so. I don't think Quay is a malicious person. I think he has got to find a way to better channel his emotions in the heat of the battle, because certainly it's gotten the better of him twice now. And he's well aware of that. I know he feels terrible. I do think, not that you can never right that act, but as best he can, number one, he owned it. He's faced it. I know he put out the statement. I know he reached out to the person. I think that takes a lot of humility to do that, and not everybody's willing to do that. So I think that says a lot about the character of Quay Walker. And we've got a very young player on our hands, and he knows he's got some growing up to do in regards to, like I said, just controlling his emotions in the heat of battle. But as far as, same with Devontae, and I told him, and really the truth of it was, Quay had a former teammate on the ground that he was checking on, and again, will never condone what he did. Like, you cannot do that. But I think he's done as good as you possibly could do in terms of being remorseful, and I think it's genuine. And he apologized to our team, and hopefully this is a great lesson for everybody involved here, that will not be tolerated, number one, and that will never happen here again. That's got to be something that everybody learns from.
Is there a way to coach discipline as a head coach, and what does that look like?
It's called, yeah, absolutely. You stress it each and every day, and there's got to be a clear understanding, because no different than what Rasul did out there. That is unacceptable. And he's well aware of it, and he knows better. And I trust that we have players that are intelligent enough to understand that, and that they can control themselves in the heat of the battle. And I get it. Some things sometimes happen out there throughout the course, and you want your guys kind of playing on with an edge, but whistle the whistle. Keep it, in fair play. The extracurricular stuff cannot happen. And our guys are well aware of that, and there's going to obviously be a huge emphasis, I would say, going into next season about how we handle ourselves, because ultimately it not only looks bad, obviously, but it hurts the team. And we can't have it.
What do you think held you all back in some of those goal-to-go situations this season, an area where you had strength in the past?
Yeah, I would say that, there's a lot that we have to study this offseason. Whether it was poor play design or lack of execution or all of the above, it wasn't good enough. We did a piss poor job in the red zone, and I've said it before. Sometimes you kick enough field goals, you're going to get yourself beat, and that's kind of what happened, because I felt like for a lot of the game we were able to move the football, and then in some critical situations couldn't convert. Had a turnover, and you can't do that in these types of games.
What do you make of what you saw from the defense this year? They had a lot of lumps, and they came back and improved, and it just seemed all over the board, good and bad.
I would say that was pretty fair for the offense too. So, collectively it wasn't good enough. It's crazy when you think a couple weeks back, just the complimentary football was on the highest display that we've probably had here in some time. And then you look at it yesterday and it was not that. So there's a lot that we can work on. The one thing that I'll say about this team that I was super proud of, and the coaches as well, and everybody, is when you're sitting there and you have a 5-game losing streak, you lose 7 of 8. Nobody started pointing fingers. So I think that does say something about the character of the people that we have. Certainly we got to perform better, but I was proud of the fact that the guys stayed together and they stayed committed. I thought we did a lot of great things throughout the course of the week in our preparation and how we competed in practice that started to show themselves on the field. And I think that's got to be the starting point. And we can't forget the lessons that were learned along the way this season in terms of what does it take to put a consistent product out there and get wins. And the margin for error is, this is as competitive as any league as there is in professional sports, in my opinion. And the margin for error is small, and so you got to make sure that you're doing everything in your power to kind of give yourself the best chance to win on Sundays.
You're asked about the next 2 weeks, and obviously it's time to make evaluations, and it's not finger pointing, it's just part of the process. Will Joe Barry be your defensive coordinator next year?
That's what I anticipate, yes. I would say this, that, like I said, we're at the initial stages of all the evaluations, and quite frankly, I don't really anticipate a whole lot, if any, staff changes at all. I do think there's something to the guys that we have in this building. Certainly, I think there's a lot of things that all of us can improve upon, most notably myself. But I do believe in the people, not only in the locker room, but our coaching staff. And like I said, are there a lot of things that we got to improve upon? Absolutely, no doubt about it. But it's my intention to try to have everybody back, and I think continuity is a big part of having success in this league. And, you know, when you feel good about the people, then you got to work to improve. And we got to challenge each other. I think there's going to be a lot of projects that we're going to do in this off season that maybe we haven't done as good of a job of in the past couple of seasons. And studying other teams and the trends going throughout the course of the league, and you got to try to stay in front of everything. And certainly we did not do that this year.
I heard all summer, Matt, that it was going to be a work in progress on offense, but did you ever feel you might have underestimated that, considering your line took so long to get kind of settled and established? The wide receiver position was so fluid all year.
Yeah, and I do think, you know, we never quite had the continuity we would have liked, but that's the game. And you got to be able to adapt and adjust and try to put your players in the best position possible, and hope that they can go out there and execute to the best of their ability. And we just didn't do it consistently enough. There were flashes. I am excited. I do think there's a lot of young players in our locker room that will take that next step, I would say, and show that improvement. And just like I told you guys earlier, challenged all of these guys, challenge our coaches. Give these guys 1 to 2 things to work on from now until we get back April 17th. And then we'll reevaluate that as well and see where we are when we get them back in the building. But I do think there's a lot of good young players in that locker room that we got to continue to develop. And these guys are going to have to take that next step in order for us to kind of take the next step as a team.
Hey Matt, with the coaching staff real quick, Tom Clements might be in a little bit of a unique situation. He's going to be 70 years old, obviously his ties to Aaron. Has he told you that he's going to be committed to next year?
Well, that's what I anticipate. I have not talked with any of our staff members today individually, and that'll take place over the course of the next 2 weeks. I think right now, when you want to allow your players to have kind of the first crack at sitting down with myself, and because some of these guys are getting out of town or whatever. But the intention is over the course of the next 10 days or so, I would like to speak with not only all our players, but all our coaches and support staff. And, you know, and I'm sure some guys, I mean, as we all know, the league is fluid, and there's going to be guys, I'm sure, on our staff that could get other opportunities, maybe better opportunities, and certainly want to support those guys in fulfilling their dreams. And if they got a better opportunity out there, then we'll take a look at it.
With Joe, what do you see with him and the defense to reach the conclusion that you want him back next season?
Yeah, I think that although it wasn't always pretty, I think there's some. I did think we started to improve as the year went on, and I thought we saw more of an identity. I thought last night we played well enough to win on the defense side of the ball. You know, obviously gave up the one big play, and then the drive in the fourth quarter to where they took the lead, where you'd like to be better. But I thought there's plenty of opportunities out there for us as a team to not be put in that situation.
Matt, you're a believer in continuity, obviously, the coaching staff. How about in your roster? How about the players? Do you foresee a lot of continuity there? Would you be in favor of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the more you can have back, the more that you're familiar with your scheme or each other. And I think continuity is a big thing in this league, and I think you see it with the teams that typically advance the furthest in terms of staying healthy. And you know, those are all great questions for probably Goody, better than myself. And but certainly as a staff, we'll make our recommendations on what we think we need and who we'd like to have back and moving forward.
Are you considering bringing Hackett back? And along those lines, have you kicked around the idea of handing over play calling to someone so you can have a more panoramic approach to coaching the team?
Yeah, I think I've definitely entertained all that. And I think you can never have enough great coaches, and certainly you guys know how I feel about Nathaniel and the job that he did here. And but again, just getting started into the evaluation phase. I did talk to him, prior or, after he got let go in Denver, and, I know that he needs some family time as well. And as far as the play calling is concerned, yeah, that's crossed my mind in terms of I want to do what's ever best for us to have success. And if we feel like that is the best way for us to win games, then I would 100% hand that over.
How much will you be communicating with Aaron Rodgers these next few weeks, and thoughts on the possibility that he might have played his last game in a Packers uniform?
Yeah, I really don't want to get into in terms of that thought right now until I sat down with him and had a conversation. So I talked to him briefly after the game last night. We're going to plan on getting together sometime this week and sit down and just you guys talked to him last night. So
For you personally, what has the adversity of this season just taught you about being a head coach in this league?
I think there's so many lessons in that you learn along the way, and a lot of times you learn more in your failures than you do when you're successful, and that's just life. And I think the one thing that has really stood out, just without getting a full reflection, is just what it takes on a daily basis, how consistent you have to be, whether you're winning or whether you're losing. I thought our guys did an outstanding job again of just staying together, staying connected, and believing in one another, because it would have been easy at 4-8 to, I've seen it happen, and we've all seen it happen. But our guys, they stood up, they stood tall, and unfortunately we didn't get it done in the end. But I was proud of their ability to stay together in this.
I get it, most teams lose their last game, but how do you get over that hump in those really big games to come through with those clutch performances?
That's a great question. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be standing here answering that if I knew right now. I think ultimately you got to be your best each and every Sunday, whether it's the first game of the season or the last game. And if you don't, you're going to get beat, especially when you're playing against solid football teams. And I think Detroit's done a great job. They've really improved. I think that's evident by how they started and where they finished. And just, speaking back to previous seasons, we've lost in some of those games. One was the Super Bowl champion, and the other one went to the NFC Championship game, and we're a couple plays away from going to the Super Bowl. And so, but I think, the one thing that I've seen from us, I would say, in these end of the game or end of the year games, is people sometimes will go outside of their role to try to make a play. And I don't think you can ever operate that way. You got to focus down in and down out on doing your job and trusting that the other 10 men are going to do their jobs. Because when you go outside the framework of whatever your responsibility is, typically bad things happen. And so we've got to really hone in on that, I think, moving forward when we get into games like these, and just making sure that we maintain that focus of, you don't have to play hero ball or anything like that. Just do your job.
So how do you coach that?
I think it's an emphasis. It's an emphasis and a reminder each and every play, or whenever you get an opportunity to, especially when adversity strikes, because I think that's kind of just, these guys are all competitors, and they all have a unbelievable, unwavering belief in themselves to be able to go out there and do whatever it is to make a play. And I just think you got to allow those plays to happen organically and just make the play that's meant to be made.
As fluid
good as David Bakhtiari's situation was in the first half of the season, did you see enough of him when he was on the field playing, and do you feel like you have enough of a grip on the situation at this point to want him to be your left tackle going forward?
Yes, I do. I thought that once we got him back out there on a consistent basis, once we learned how to best practice him, once he learned how to do that for himself, I thought he played at a pretty high level.
I'm sure. Go ahead, Mike.
How candid is this period between the head coach and young players, or even maybe position coaches? You're with these guys for 7 or 8 months every day, but do they really open up to you? Is there a loyalty, a trust there?
I hope so. I can't speak for everybody, but I can tell you that I am going to be I can speak for myself in this situation. When I have those conversations, it's nothing but the truth, at least from how I see it. And, guys have different ways of receiving that, whether they want to, people can get either defensive about it, or they can take it to heart and understand what the intent is behind it. And the intent is always to push people to be their best.
A year ago, you changed direction on special teams. A year into Rich now, what direction do you think that unit's going?
Oh, I think absolutely it's going the right way. I think you look at our kickoff coverage units, our punt coverage unit, the way these guys run, certainly we saw the effects on kickoff return, although I don't think last night was our best. But the way these guys compete, for that one play, I love the effort. I love the energy. He is extremely sound and detailed in what we are trying to get done. I thought you saw improvement. You saw a lot of young players improve throughout the course of the season. So I think as a team, we're definitely in terms of that phase of the game, we're definitely trending in the right direction.
Now, what did you think of just what Christian gave you the second half of the season, and how intriguing is that piece now as you develop your offense with him now established?
Well, he gave us a legitimate home run threat, and I think that was on full display last night. And we can be extremely creative in terms of how we can get him the ball. And I think you saw a little bit of that. We tried to, run and around to him, hit him on a couple keeper slides, hit him on a go ball down the field. But I still think there's a lot of room for improvement in his own game. He is an extremely intelligent player. And I've said this before, you can move him anywhere within the formation, and know that he's going to go out there and execute to the best of his abilities. I think there's some things within just his releases and route refinement that we can still, like most young players, you can always improve upon, and that gets me quite excited. I think that I don't think there's anything this guy can't do. I really believe that, and if he approaches the offseason the way I think he'll approach it, I think we're going to see an even better version of him next year.
I asked Aaron about the interception last night, and at the end of his answer, he said, those last 3 calls definitely sting a little bit, but still got to execute. Does that mean he was unhappy with those calls?
I would say, yeah, if that's what he said, then okay. I would say that he probably didn't like the play call.
Well, and you always take responsibility for that. So my question is, if he comes back, how do you two get to the optimal place of the partnership that you and him are supposed to have? Because that indication is, that didn't sound very positive when he said that.
Yeah, well, and, I think it just comes back to communication, just making sure that we're communicating throughout the course of the game and telling him exactly what I'm thinking in those situations. And, I don't expect every player to love every call, but at the same time, I have a responsibility to all 11 guys on the field to pick the plays that I feel like are going to give us the best chance to have success. And, unfortunately, especially that last play, really the last 2 plays, we didn't really hold up in protection, and we had 2 bad plays. So that's just the way it goes sometimes.
What are you going to tell Jordan? What are you going to tell Jordan when he leaves here? He could come back and be the starter for this team. He could come back, and I imagine he doesn't want to be a backup for a 4th year in a row. And if he does need to be the starter, do you think he's ready to, based on what you've seen?
Yeah, I think that I'll tell him the same thing that I've always told him. You're only 1 play away, and you never know when that's going to come. So you have to prepare like you're the starter at all times. And I have complete confidence in his ability, but also just his approach. And it's been fun to watch him mature as a football player, as a man over the course of these last 3 years. And you know, he just, the way he walks around the building, the way his approach, his urgency, his fundamentals, everything that goes into being a quarterback, I think we've seen significant growth from him. So I'm definitely excited about, you know, where he could be. Like I said, I got a lot of confidence in him and in his ability moving forward.
Matt, you said that you want Aaron back. From just about any way you look at it, he had his least productive season of his career. He also turns 40 next year. What have you seen to want him back and inspire belief that he can lead this team to where you want to go?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of variables in play this year. I really do. And sure, are there some things that he could have done better? Absolutely. Just like there's some things that I know I could have done better, and you can go right down the line to every coach, to every player. And you know, there were a lot of new pieces in there, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer than others. And certainly we got to have some great conversations in regards to where we go with our scheme and what it is we're going to do. You know, and I always look forward to those. Just getting everybody on the same page, making sure that we're doing what's best for us, and evolving. And I think that's what this game is all about. You see trends all the time, and whether it's different styles of offenses or defenses or whatever it may be, and you got to stay in front of everything. And you know, I'm excited for this offseason to really get down, roll up our sleeves, and you know, work to find different avenues to improve, because obviously there's a lot of room for improvement out there, and you know, but there's a lot of work to be done.
You talked about continuity, coaching staff, and potentially personnel too. You also just were saying how close you were a couple plays away from being in a Super Bowl not that long ago. Do you feel like you're a lot farther away than you were when you were those couple plays away? And how do you, I mean, do you feel like you've got a lot of ground to make up when you finish 8-9, or do you not necessarily feel like the distance is maybe as far as it felt last night when you walked off the field?
I think that, like I said earlier, I just don't think that the margin for error in this league is that great. When I think back to those previous seasons, I mean, we won a lot of close games, and unfortunately this year there were a lot of those close games that went the other way. And we got to be better in crunch time and making sure that we can go out there and finish the job. And it's really disappointing, I would say, when you have the support of your fans and you're in Lambeau, and you just, every time you walk out there as a team, you expect to win the game. And for us to come up short again, that's pretty frustrating, and it's disappointing. And I feel the disappointment. I'm disappointed for all you guys, for our fans, everybody that's invested into this thing. And you know, like I told a couple other guys today, you know, it certainly it is. It's we're not where we expected to be, and so in that regard, it's a complete failure. And you know, that's a tough pill to swallow. It really is, because I don't feel like we worked any less hard than any other year. But unfortunately, we came on the wrong side of this thing. And so, you know, just got to keep challenging one another on a daily basis, and to get better each and every day and to maximize our time when we're in the building to put out a better product because it wasn't good enough.